crochet lovers, and welcome to my channel Spaß mit Faden. Today I want to show you how I crocheted this beautiful pullover. I crocheted my pullover in a size large for myself, but I want to show you in these instructions how you can crochet this sweater in every size that you can imagine. Actually, you can crochet now this pattern for the sweater for baby till a size 10XL or even bigger. I want to explain to you in the instructions what you have to take care of to take the sweater in every size and length that you prefer. And please just make sure now to subscribe my channel to support it. And of course, I want to tell you now what you'll need to crochet together with me this beautiful sweater. To crochet now your pullover together with me, you'll of course need some yarn. I've decided to crochet today my pullover with this beautiful pink color yarn and my white colored yarn, and I used of both colors 200 to 250 grams of each color, as I said, although I decided to crochet my pullover with a 4mm hook. I crocheted my pullover for myself in a size large, but as you can read on the title of this instruction, I want to explain to you today how you can crochet the pattern of this pullover for an infant till a very huge adult size. So what we want to do when we crochet the sweater for an infant is to crochet it with a 2.5mm hook. Then for toddlers, to teenagers, you can use a 3.5mm hook and just follow the same instructions as me when I crochet my sweater with a 4mm hook. For adults, you can actually choose how big your crochet hook should be. As I said, I crocheted my whole pullover with a 4mm hook, but you can crochet it for adults with a 10mm hook too. Our pattern of the sweater is designed to really crochet it in any size and length that you prefer. So please just follow the same instructions, and it doesn't matter if you want to crochet your pullover for a baby or even for a very big adult size. All you have to do is to really follow the same instructions that I want to explain to you in this tutorial. I laid down a yarn needle. With this I want to later on sew up my yarn ends, and a scissor, and with my scissor I later want to cut off my yarn ends. And as you can see, I laid down 3 stitch markers here. You don't necessarily need stitch markers. I really want to use them once in this whole instruction. You can of course use safety pins or even yarn rests too to mark your work. And I really do hope now that you enjoy the instructions for the pullover. It doesn't matter, as I said, if you crochet it for infants or a very big adult size. Before we now start to crochet together our pullover, I want to explain to you quickly how we are going to work it. Of those pieces that you just see in front of you, we now want to start to crochet 2. As you can see, I already prepared my first piece. This will be later on the front side of my pullover. And now I want to crochet together the second piece, the back side of my pullover. Once we've completed to crochet those 2 pieces, we are going to lay them on top of each other, and then we are going to close the sides of it together. For our sleeves, we then want to leave some space and finish to crochet our sleeves together. After that, all we have to do is to crochet our neckline and then add a waistband to our sweater. By crocheting our pullover like this, it allows us to make it as long and as wide as we want. I want to crochet now my pullover for myself in a size large. And as I said, we now want to start to crochet together first 2 of those pieces, and you can really decide how long your pieces and how wide your pieces will be. I want to start to crochet my pullover now by creating a slip knot first. Into that slip knot, I now want to insert my hook and pull my slip knot very tight. I now want to start to crochet chain stitches. For chain stitch, I always want to yarn over and pull my yarn through the loop on my hook. This is my first chain, my second, my third, 4th and my 5th chain, and I now want to crochet in total 50 chains. Once I've completed to crochet my 50 chains, I want to show you on the piece that I already crocheted how you can really decide how long your sweater should be. So this 50 chains will later be the length of my sweater. I now completed to crochet my 50 chains, and I laid them down on my already finished front piece of my pullover. As I said to go with you, I'm now crocheting already my second piece, and what you can define with the length of your chain stitches is the length of the front and the back side of your sweater. So you want to grab your chain stitches up and lay them on the highest point of your shoulder. Then you want to let this whole thing down, and there you can really be sure that you reach your perfect length when this whole thing is covering up your length of the front and the back side of your pullover that you want to crochet. What I've done although is to stop crocheting my chain stitches 10 centimeters before I reached my perfect length of my sweater, because later on I want to add a waistband, and this waistband will be 10 centimeters long. If you want to have an as big waistband as I have, please stop 10 centimeters before you crochet your perfect length of your pullover. Once you crochet your chain stitches and you can be sure that you reach nearly your perfect length, as I said, if you want to crochet an as big waistband as me, just stop 10 centimeters before you reach your perfect length. I want to show you now how we want to start to crochet row by row, and with this row we then just want to crochet the width of our front and back side. So by adding more or even less chains, you can now decide if your sweater should be cropped or has a normal length. I want to crochet my sweater in a normal length, and what I would recommend to you too is that even if you want to crochet your sweater in the exact size and length that I've crocheted, to really measure this whole chain stitches as I told you, because if you crochet even tighter or looser than me, it can be that this whole 50 chains won't be enough or even too long for you. So please just crochet now your chain stitches, and I want to show you now how we want to start to crochet our very first row for the width of our sweater. I just completed to crochet my 50 chains. And what I want to do after my chain number 50 is to crochet 3 more chains. This is my first, my second and my third chain. These 3 chains we later want to count as our very first double crochet. So I want to skip now those 3 chains and crochet into my 4th chain from my hook, my first double crochet. For double crochet I want to yarn over and insert my hook, as I said, into that 4th chain, yarn over again and pull my yarn through the chain. And I do have now 3 loops on my hook. I want to yarn over and pull my yarn now through the first 2 loops. Then I want to yarn over again and pull my yarn through the last 2 loops too. And we now crocheted our first double crochet. I want to show it to you one more time. I yarn over and go on with this following chain. I insert my hook in it, yarn over again and pull my yarn through. And again I do have 3 loops on my hook. Now I want to yarn over and pull my yarn through those 2 first loops, and I do have left now 2 loops. I want to yarn over and pull my yarn through the last 2 loops too. What we want to do now for our first row is to crochet in each of those chains 1 double crochet, and once you reach the end of your chain stitches, I want to show you how we want to continue to crochet with the second row. I'm now nearly at the end of my first row. What I have to do now is to crochet in this last chain stitch 1 double crochet too, and now I completed my very first row. We now want to start every following row by crocheting 3 chains first. This is my first, second and my third chain, and those 3 chains we want to count as our very first double crochet in the following row. So what I want to do now is to turn my work around, and I don't want to crochet on top of this double crochet here right on my corner, because as I said, those 3 chains we now want to count as our first double crochet. Instead, I now want to crochet on top of this following stitch, the second one in my row, my double crochet. And what we want to do now is to crochet our double crochets only in the back loop of our stitches. As you can see, our stitches are normally made out of these 2 loops, and we now want to crochet every following row and every following stitch by crocheting our double crochets only into that back loop. So I yarn over and grab up my back loop, yarn over and crochet my double crochet into that second stitch as I said. And I now want to continue to crochet into the back loops only my double crochets. And I decided to always change my yarn color after my 6th row with 1 color. But please make sure now to first crochet your 2nd row. Then I want to show you how we want to complete our rows and start every following row 1 more time. And then I want to complete my 6 rows with my pink yarn, and I want to show you then how we change color too. I'm now nearly at the end of row number 2, and because we always crochet our double crochets into the back loop only, this beautiful edge here creates itself and lays on top of our work. But now first I want to tell you how we want to complete every row and start every following row. So as you can see, I do have here 1 double crochet left, and then my 3 chains are following. To complete now a row, we always want to crochet into the back loop of this last double crochet, of course a double crochet too. And what we want to do then is to crochet on top of that 3rd chain 1 double crochet to complete our 2nd row. As I told you, the 3 chains we want to count as a double crochet, and because of that we of course have to crochet to complete row number 2 1 double crochet on top of that 3rd chain too. So this is what I'm doing now, and now we completed row number 2, and every following row we want to complete the exact same way that I just showed you now. I want to start row number 3 now by crocheting again 3 chains, and these 3 chains we of course want to count again as our first double crochet. Then I want to turn my whole work around, and because these 3 chains cover now 1 double crochet, we want to skip this very first double crochet at the edge and crochet on top of that following 2nd double crochet into the back loop our first double crochet for row number 3. So this is what we do now to start and finish every following row, and I now want to crochet 6 rows with my pink yarn, and then I want to show you how I want to switch my color from pink to white. But you can actually decide if you want to crochet even more or less rows before you switch your color. So please just let me complete now my 6 rows with my pink yarn, and then I want to take you with me when I change my color of the yarn. I'm now nearly at the end of row number 6 with my pink yarn, and as I told you, I now want to switch my color from pink to white because I've chosen to crochet my pullover with 2 different colors. So what I have to do now to complete row number 6 is to crochet again into that 3rd chain 1 double crochet. What I have to do now to complete row number 6 is to crochet again in this 3rd chain my double crochet. So I want to insert my hook now into that 3rd chain, yarn over and pull my yarn through. And as you can see, I do have now 3 loops on my hook, and while crocheting this double crochet I now want to switch my yarn color. So what I want to do is to yarn over and pull my yarn through the first 2 loops on my hook. Then I want to grab up my 2nd yarn color, in my case it is this white, grab it up with my hook and pull my yarn now through the last 2 loops on my hook. What we've done now is to switch our color invisibly at the end of our row. You can of course decide how many rows you want to crochet before switching your yarn color, or even if you want to crochet the whole thing in 1 yarn color. And now that I've switched my yarn color to white, I just want to continue to crochet my rows. I want to chain 3 first and turn my work around. Basically, I just now want to crochet my rows the same way that I've always done it. So please just continue to crochet now your rows with the same pattern. And what you want to do is to create now 2 of those pieces, because one, as I said, will be the front side of our pullover and the second one will be the back side of our pullover. What I want to do now is to crochet row by row this pattern. Please just make sure that you crochet your rows till you reach reach the width that your front and back side should have of your pullover. And once you've done that and you have two of those beautiful pieces, I want to show you how we want to close them up together. I completed now my second piece, as you can see too, and I crocheted for my two pieces 36 rows for the width in total, and it looks like this. And what I've done too is to just sew up my yarn ends of these two pieces on one side of my piece. You can see it right here. I just placed the two pieces on top of each other, so the sides where I sewed up my yarn ends is facing the top. The pretty side is inside. This is the side where you can't see my yarn ends at the back piece. This is the side where you can't see the knots that I made to sew up my yarn ends in the inside too. So what I've done is to lay this both sides, the pretty sides, on top of each other, so the sides where I sewed up my yarn ends are laying outside of my work. And then I already crocheted my first sleeve. I crocheted my sleeves in rows too. Later on I just closed my edge together with slip stitches. Before I crocheted my sleeve, I already sewed up this corner right here underneath my sleeve, and here on my shoulder part I've closed the whole thing together too, as you can see. The reason why we really crochet our sweater now from the inside outside is because you later on can't see this edge here when you flip it on the right side, and you can't see the places where you sewed up your yarn ends together. I want to show you that when we later on flip this whole thing back, it'll look very pretty and nobody can tell that we really closed it up on these edges. So what we want to do is to crochet this whole thing while it's turned inside out. And what I've done now is to, as I said, complete this left side, and I want to show you now on the right side how I've done that. As you can see, I now used my stitch markers to mark this edge here. There will be later on my second sleeve, and here at my shoulder I want to start to sew up this edge right here. This will be the place where I later on will put my hat through. So please just take these pieces now and look how big your sleeve place needs to be, and then we want to close up now these two edges together with our yarn needle. What I want to do now is to close these two edges together, as I said. This is the edge right underneath my sleeve place that I of course want to leave empty, and this is my shoulder place. And I now want to show you how I want to close these two edges together. What I've done now is to take some yarn and thread it through my yarn needle, and I left a little bit of it over, as you can see, because later on I want to sew up my yarn ends. And I now want to insert my yarn needle first at the back stitch here right at the corner, and then I want to grab up this stitch here, the 3 chains, and want to insert my yarn needle now on this third stitch right at the edge. And then I want to pull my yarn through it. I just cut 20 centimeters of my yarn off. All I have to do now is to leave a little bit of yarn over, because later on I of course want to sew up this yarn end too. As you can see, my yarn is now coming from the front piece, so I have to insert my yarn needle now on this following double crochet, first at the front piece like this, and then I want to grab up the double crochet at my back piece too. And of course I want to pull now my yarn needle through these 2 stitches and pull my whole yarn through them. Because my yarn is now coming from the back again, I first have to insert my yarn needle through this following double crochet at my back piece first, and then grab up at my front piece this following front double crochet. And this is basically all we have to take care of. When our yarn is coming from the front piece first, we have to insert our yarn needle first on this following double crochet on the front, and grab up then at the back our double crochet and pull our whole yarn through it to sew them together. And now my yarn is again coming from the back, so I have to grab up now this following double crochet first at my back piece, and then insert my yarn needle through the double crochet on my front piece. And this is basically all we have to take care of when we sew up these 2 edges together. Please do that now with this edge, as I said, right underneath your sleeve. Our sleeve place we of course want to leave empty, because what what we then want to do is to sew up at this edge first our shoulder place, and once you sewed up these two edges here, I want to show you how we want to crochet our sleeves. I just sewed up now my front piece and back piece on the sides underneath my sleeves and at my shoulder parts together, and I want to give you a little advice how we can close up your edges equally on the left and at the right side together, as well at the shoulders. What I've done to make sure that I've closed the same length together on both sides is to count my double crochets that I sewed up together underneath my sleeves at my front and my back piece. For example, I had 25 double crochets underneath my sleeves at the front and back piece that I sewed up together at this left edge here, and of course I counted them on my front and back piece, my 25 double crochets too, and there I set my marker so I can be sure that I sewed up the two edges equally together. And at my shoulders I of course started to count my rows, as you can see, because as you know we crocheted our width in rows together. This is now my edge that I had, and I started to count at this edge right here 9 rows, for example, at my pullover for my shoulders together on my left side. And all I had to do then is to start to count at this very first row here 9 rows to the middle of my work. This later on will be the head place that we left empty, and I would recommend to you now that you grab up your sleeve place right here where it goes to the body part over. Here I do have closed my shoulder together, and I would recommend you to grab up now your piece like this, because I then want to show you how we want to start to crochet the rows for our sleeves. I want to show to you now how we want to crochet the sleeves for our pullover. Right here this whole thing goes down to my body part, and I want to grab up now this very first double crochet here where I close this whole thing up with my yarn needle like this. And my first sleeve I did crochet just with my pink yarn, and of course I want to crochet now my second sleeve just with my pink yarn too. So I inserted my hook now on this very first double crochet. I want to yarn over, pull my yarn through, and we now want to crochet the sleeves in rows like I've done it with the width of my body part too. First I want to crochet 3 chains, and then I want to grab up on this following double crochet, of course just the back loop too, and crochet 1 double crochet. All we have to do now is to crochet our double crochets into the back loop only, and once you've done that around your whole sleeve and you're again at the end of your row, I want to show you how we want to continue, because our sleeves we now want to crochet in rows too, otherwise we would lose our pattern, and then we want to close this whole sleeve together at a final step with our slip stitches. I decided to crochet slip stitches to close them up together because I think that this looks better than sewing up our sleeves together. But first please crochet now into your back loops only your double crochets, and then I want to show you how we want to start our second row for our sleeves. I now crocheted around the whole opening around my sleeves my double crochets only into the back loop, and as you can see I've got 1 last stitch left, and again I want to crochet into the back loop only 1 double crochet. And I told you already that we want to crochet now our sleeves in rows too, so what I want to do is to crochet again 3 chains. This 3 chains again we want to count as our first double crochet, and without closing now this round I want to continue to crochet my second row for my sleeves and every following row. As I said, these 3 chains now count as our very first double crochet, so I skip this first double crochet and crochet my first double crochet into the back loop on top of the second double crochet in my row. And for my first sleeve I crochet 26 rows with double crochets into the back loop only. Then I crocheted 5 rows with my white yarn at my first sleeve for a band too, and what I want to do now is to crochet in total 23 3 rows with double crochets into the back loop only. The last 3 rows I then want to crochet with decreases so that the whole sleeve is getting tighter around my wrist. And please just continue to crochet now your rows with your double crochets into the back loop only. As I said, we then want to crochet a band around our wrist of a height of 5 centimeters, and the last 3 rows for our sleeves we then want to crochet with decreases. Continue to crochet now your length of your sleeves and stop 5 centimeters before you reach your perfect length, and then 3 rows before you reach that point you want to stop and crochet together with me decreases so that your whole sleeve will get tighter on your wrist. I'm now nearly at the end of row number 23 for my sleeve. What I want to do now to complete row number 23 is to of course crochet again on top of that 3rd chain my double crochet. And now I've completed the crochet again row number 23. What I want to do now to start row number 24 is to again chain 3 chains and turn my whole work around. And what we want to do now in this row is to crochet invisible decreases. If you crocheted your pullover now for a bigger size than I did, maybe 3XL or 4XL, you want to start to crochet your rows with the invisible decreases rows before I have. This means that I want to crochet now row number 24 with invisible decreases. Row number 25 I then just want to crochet again as we've always done it, by crocheting into each stitch and the back loop 1 double crochet, and then I want to repeat to crochet in row number 26, the row that I now want to crochet, row number 24. So in row number 24 and row number 26 I want to crochet now invisible decreases, and in row number 25 I just want to crochet my work back. So what I have to do now, after I've crocheted my 3 chains, as usual we want to count our 3 chains as our first double crochet, is to skip of course this very first double crochet here on the edge, and I want to crochet on top of that 2nd double crochet in my row, my 2nd double crochet for row number 24. I now want to crochet this following 3rd and 4th double crochet from the previous round in this round together to 1. So I yarn over and want to insert my hook again into that back loop only of that 3rd stitch. Then I want to yarn over again and pull my yarn through, and as you can see I do have now 3 loops on my hook. I want to yarn over and pull my yarn just through those 2 front loops, and the following 2 loops I now want to leave on my hook. Now I want to yarn over and continue with this 4th stitch in the row. Grab the back loop only, yarn over and pull my yarn through, and as you can see I do have now 4 loops on my hook. I want to yarn over and pull my yarn now again through these 2 first loops. Now I have again 3 loops on my hook, and I want to yarn over a last time in this invisible decrease and pull my yarn now through the 3 left loops on my hook. So we now crocheted our first invisible decrease. Now I want to crochet again 2 double crochets that are just following in my row. This was my first and my 2nd double crochet, and the following 3rd and 4th double crochet of my previous round I want to crochet together again as an invisible decrease. I want to show you one more time how I do that. I just yarned over and want to insert my hook now on top of this following stitch back loop only. Then I want to yarn over and pull my yarn through. I do have again 3 loops on my hook. I want to yarn over and pull my yarn just through those 2 loops. These 2 loops I'm gonna leave on my hook, yarn over and insert my hook again on top of that following stitch back loop only. Then I want to yarn over and pull my yarn through. Now I do have 4 loops on my hook. I yarn over and pull my yarn now through this following 2 loops, and again I have now left 3 loops on my hook. I want to yarn over again a last time for the invisible decrease and pull my yarn now through the last 3 loops on my hook. So this is now what I want to do for my row number 24. Once I've completed to crochet the invisible decreases in this row, I want to crochet again my row number 25 the same way that we've always done it, by crocheting on top of each double crochet, just on top of that back loop again, one double crochet. And row number 26, I then want to crochet exactly the same way that I now crocheted row number 24. And once you've done that, you can chain one chain and leave 30 centimeters of your yarn over. Then you can cut off your yarn, and this leftover yarn we then want to use to close up our sleeves, as you can see from this rows together on this edge to a very beautiful sleeve. I completed to crochet now my 26 rows for my sleeve, and all we have to do now is to close our sleeve together at this edge. So I just laid these two edges on top of each other, and as you can see, my 26th row ended at my back piece. When I finished to crochet my 26th row again, I chained one, and I now want to close this edge together with slip stitches. Of course you can sew up your edge too, but this time I want to show you how I want to close up my sleeve with slip stitches. So after I've completed to crochet my last row, chained one and made my last loop very big, I want to insert my hook now first on front of this edge here into my second chain at the front piece. Then I want to grab up the loop that I just made very big and just grab up my yarn on my left hand as usual. And now I want to pull this loop here that I just grabbed up through this second chain. All we have to do now to crochet slip stitches is to insert our hook on this following chain and grab up at our back piece the following second chain too. Then we want to yarn over, and for slip stitch I now want to pull my yarn through all the loops on my hook. Please make sure to crochet your slip stitches very loose, because if you crochet your slip stitches too tight, your sleeves won't look good, because this edge really will be pressed together, and that is something that we don't want. Now I want to insert my hook for a last slip stitch for this row into this big gap, and do the same thing of course with this following gap here at my back piece too. Yarn over, and please, as I said, make sure to don't pull this yarn now very tight through all of those stitches, through the stitches on my hook. Now you can of course ask where to insert your hook for your slip stitches, because as you can see our double crochets now lay on the side. What we want to do now is to always insert our hook in between these rows with our double crochets. In my case it would be this very small gap here, and you want to do the same thing of course with your back piece too. Then you want to yarn over and crochet a slip stitch. Now again, a usual row of your double crochets as following. You always insert your hook first through this front piece and then grab the equal spot on your back piece too. Yarn over and crochet one slip stitch. And again now I want to grab in between my rows with my double crochets this little gap here, and do the same thing with the back gap here too. Yarn over and crochet a slip stitch. So you always want to insert your hook in between your rows with your double crochets, and then of course at your back piece too, and then insert it again on top of this rows with your double crochets in the big gap. And like this you now want to close up this whole edge, as I said, with your slip stitches together, so that you completed to close up your sleeves. As I said in the beginning, you can of course choose to do this with your yarn needle too and sew up this edge. Once you've completed that, please sew up all of your yarn ends. Then you want to turn your work again around, because as you know, right now this whole thing is turned inside out. Just make sure to really turn your whole pullover again at this beautiful inside. This side will later on face, of course, the side that we want to wear, and this will be the inside of our sweater. So please just continue to crochet now your edge together, and then turn this whole thing onto the right side again. And once you've done that, I want to show you how I crocheted a 5 cm wristband to complete my sleeves. I now want to crochet 5 rows with front post double crochets and back post double crochets. So what I want to do now is to insert my hook right here where I close this whole thing together with my slip stitches. And then I want to grab up my white yarn, because with my white yarn I now want to crochet my bands for this pullover. I now want to yarn over and pull my yarn, as I said, through this stitch. Then I want to crochet first 3 chains. And now I want to start to crochet. By taking turns. First the front post double crochet and then a back post double crochet. These 2 stitches we crocheted in our previous round as a decrease together, and I just want to grab up now both stitches and crochet my back post double crochet. What I want to do now to complete the crochet my sleeve is to crochet 5 rounds with my back post double crochets and my front post double crochets, taking turns. Once you've completed to crochet your first round like this, please close it up by crocheting into that 3rd chain 1 slip stitch, and then you want to crochet for the following round again your 3 chains, and on top of each front post double crochet you then want to crochet again a front post double crochet, and on top of each following back post double crochet you then want to crochet a back post double crochet. If you don't feel so secure by crocheting your front and back post double crochets, there are plenty of beginner instructions on YouTube, so you can really look this up once you finish to crochet your waistband like that, and all we have to do then is to finish our waistband. Now that I've completed to crochet my 2 sleeves, I want to crochet around my neckline a beautiful edge, because this right here isn't looking so good. Right here I later on want to put my hat through, and this is, as I said, our neckline. You can actually decide now if you want to crochet your neckline with 2 rounds of single crochets like me, or if you want to crochet them with front post double crochets and back post double crochets. So what you want to do now, if you want to crochet around your neckline front post double crochets and back post double crochets too, is to crochet now, instead of me like single crochets, double crochets. You want to insert your hook the same way that I do it, but just crochet then your double crochets. If you crocheted your pullover for a bigger size than I have, as you know, I crocheted my pullover in a size large, but if you crocheted your pullover in a size 4XL or even bigger, I would recommend to you to crochet 1 round now with double crochets around your neckline, and then again rounds with decreases, the same way that I've showed you at our sleeves. For this decreases, you first have to crochet, of course, 1 round with normal double crochets. As I said, want to crochet now my neckline by crocheting 2 rows with single crochets. I now just want to insert my hook at one of these rows with my double crochets right here, and grab up my white yarn. I decided to crochet all of my ribbons with my white yarn. I want to yarn over and pull my yarn now through this gap. And now I want to crochet 2 chains for the rows with my single crochets. I now want to crochet in between these rows, right here at this little gap, my first single crochet. So in between my rows with my double crochet, I now want to insert my hook, yarn over and pull my yarn through, and I do have now 2 loops on my hook. And for single crochet, I want to yarn over and pull my yarn now through these 2 loops on my hook. Then I want to insert my hook again on top of this row with my double crochets and crochet 1 single crochet on top of it too. So I just want to continue to crochet always in between my rows with my double crochets, 1 single crochet, and then insert my hook on the row with my double crochet and crochet a single crochet. As I said, if you want to crochet double crochets instead of single crochets like me, you want to insert your hook on the same places. I completed the crochet now around my neckline my 2 rounds with my single crochets, and this is the opening for my body part of my sweater. What I want to do now is to crochet first 1 round with double crochets, and I want to show you where you have to insert your hook now to crochet this very first round with your double crochets. After that, I want to crochet front post double crochets and back post double crochets on top of that double double crochets that we now want to crochet together. Basically, we are crocheting the same ribbon for our waistband that we already crocheted around our sleeves. So what you want to do now is to insert your hook on top of one of these rows with your double crochets. Then you want to grab up your yarn and pull it through this gap like this. We now want to start to crochet again 3 chains. And we always want to insert our hook in between our 2 rows in this little gap and crochet a double crochet. And then we want to crochet our following double crochet again on top of this row with our double crochets. Like this, I now want to continue to crochet this round. And once I've crocheted around this whole opening around my waist, my first round with my double crochets, I want to close this round by crocheting on top of this 3rd chain 1 slip stitch. Then I want to crochet again 3 chains and start with my rounds with my front post double crochets and my back post double crochets. I always want to take turns with them and crochet my waistband till I've reached a height of 10 centimeters. And once you're finished to crochet your waistband, we'll meet up again for our final results. After I've completed to crochet now my waistband, this is the beautiful result of my pullover. As you can see, it turned out very beautiful, and if you do have now an as beautiful pullover as I have, please comment this video and let me know if you enjoyed the instructions and crocheting together with me. And of course, I do hope now that we'll see each other the next time with our next project again.